Sveiki! Sveiki visiem! Es šoreiz no sākuma parunāšu latviski, iepazīšos. Tātad es esmu Anastasija Foks, šīs portāla organizētāja un māmiņa. Saukājiet mani, apsaukājiet, kā jūs gribiet. Un ar manīm šodien ir atkal brīnišķīgā Jenni, kas ir bijusi policiste un vēl joprojām strādā policijā. Un šodien mēs parunāsim par to, ko mēs runājam pagājušais, un kaut kādus jaunumus arī, jo ir ļoti interesantas lietas, bet tagad mēs pāriesim angļu valodā, jo Jenni, diemžēl, pagaidām, varbūt ar laiku, iemācīsies latviešu valodu. Jenni, hi, what I was just said to our audience, that actually I'm glad to see you again. This is one. You smile always make me smile. Nevertheless, that we will little bit discuss what we discussed previously, and that I hope one day you can say something Latvian. Community language. Who's no? You know, I like make the people a little bit smile, and I like to make this conversation a little bit light. And because the conversation with you, it's always touch quite heavy topics, and nevertheless, we need to little bit go back 1 month ago when we have a first hour conversation, and you gave some kind of advice to Latvian community. What is domestic violence, what kind of signs of it, and what is domestic violence. And there was several topics, and I will be glad if you repeat one more time in a short sentences, maybe not so long, that what is the domestic violence and how to recognize this, to just remind people, because after that we will give some really nice information for everyone about it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to share with you, because I don't like to make it up. So I'm going to give you what is the actual definition of domestic violence. So let me find it for you.
And until you find, we have a first comment. Hello, lovely Jenni. Hello, Jenni, lovely ladies. Igors, it's one of our greatest person in Latvian community. He is the worldwide famous baker on Latvian bread, particularly. Yes. So thank you. Paldies, Aigariņ. Mēs ar tevīm vēl vēlāk aprunāsimies un klausies un skaties, komentē un uzdod jautājumus.
Okay, so let me tell you, this is what it says. This is on the government website, so you can go onto the government website and look it up for yourself. Just type in domesticabuse.gov and it will come up. But the wording says here, the new definition of domestic violence and abuse now states any incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, or threatening behavior, violence, or abuse between those aged 16 or over who are or have been intimate partners or family members, regardless of gender or sexuality. And this can include, but is not limited to, the following types of abuse: psychological, physical, sexual, financial, and emotional. And I think, for some people, I was only talking to someone today, and she said she didn't know that financial abuse was domestic violence. She didn't know. Her husband kept all her cards. Her husband controlled what she spent. She wasn't allowed to spend anything without his permission, and yet she was earning money. That is abuse. So it's a pattern of behavior. If it's just a one-off thing, you want to buy a really expensive handbag and he says no, then that's not abuse. But
Particular handbags.
a particular
Expensive.
handbag or shoes or whatever that is, that's not abuse. But if they
Yeah.
control all your money, you're not allowed to buy anything for yourself, that you don't have any access to any money, and that goes on, there's a pattern of that behavior, then that is abuse.
Yeah, and the same is it's abuse where your partner doesn't matter of gender, woman or man, control where you go, what you do. You need to be all the time on a time at home. There is threatening text messages because the people as well. Again, we think that it's normal. Depends which kind of level you allowed it, but there need to be some kind of balance where you have your own time. But when the partners start go on and on and on and disturb you, what else you do, that's it's controlling as well.
So let me tell you a little, give you a little example. So say for one of the examples I can give you is you are on your phone texting your friends and you're on social media or just sending text, and your partner comes and takes your phone away, or they're always asking you who you're talking to, tell you that you can't talk to these people, or you leave your house to go and do some shopping, but they're accusing you of being somewhere else, checking how long you're going to be, constantly phoning you all the time. Sometimes we, especially if it's a new relationship, we can interpret that as they really care about me. They love me. They really, that's not, no, that's not it. If you are constantly in fear of who you talk to, who you might bump into, who might call your phone, you've gone to the shop and you've been half an hour, but you said you're only going to be 10 minutes, and you're worrying about how fast you need to get back because you know there's going to be a problem when you get home, that is abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, and funny to say, I need to tell you huge thanks for
Oh,
last time our conversation, because during our conversation and afterwards there was several text messages and people which come up to me and asking for help.
ah,
And yeah, and actually I need to say one big thank you particular from one lady who's have a financial and mental and as well sexual abuse, even that was husband, and now she have separate house, and a local authority now award her for her own space. Children is as well supported, and what she said to me, she never thought that children will be so relaxed now, and it's do not all the time come over her and scared to leave mommy alone. And that
oh,
was happen actually in the next day after our conversation,
oh
where
my
all this start turn over. We was contact the school, we was contact local authorities. She was in a couple days time with a local police support, moved on a temporary accommodation, and literally in these days she moved in her own new house. Another lady was survivor already, but there was challenging situation with her partner, and now as well she have a huge support from several organizations as a survivor, and she have a treatment as well put in a place already. So in a 1 month's time we have, I think, huge results, and this is
wow.
what I think that kind of our conversation here, it's so important, not only talk about that but actually show our followers that the information what we share actually works. It's not like we just talking to for chat, but if you put this in a action, it's working.
Yes.
There are our barriers between uh, Latvian community and police, and we will little bit later discuss about that. But actually, everything what, if you really want to something change, nobody will change. The same time, there is always someone which give you that support to go through it, or to courage finally recognize and give you guidelines where to go, because not me, not our organization, which is Nuoteikumi, done that, but we keep the hands of particular persons, and we courage and we make sure it's safe, and we make sure everything is done correct way. We courage to give them comfortable feeling to do so as well, not with a push. So and look at that, in a 1 month's time, huge results. I think this is huge results, that we have two families which now live more comfortable lifestyle, and understood that actually they went through a quite severe domestic violence, and now they are in a recovery path, which
Wow.
again we give the support. So yeah, Jenni, we need to continue, as we said before, but today I want to little bit talk about what actually in the United Kingdom police do for communities in a generalization, and then we maybe pick some topics particular, because I think in a Latin community that's his biggest problem. We scared, we are not comfortable contact police, and I think we even do not know what actually police do here and what is their duty in a communities. We do not talk about the crime, that is obvious, yeah, the crime situation, but what is community involvement and policing?
I mean, that's quite a difficult question, because it's not they don't have a specific role that doesn't involve crime in communities anymore. Not that I'm aware of. I think they, in times gone by, they would have what they called community surgeries. I used to be a neighborhood community sergeant, and we would have weekly surgeries where it would either be in a school or it would be a local neighborhood center, and people could come and ask questions and talk about things like, if they were having problems with their neighbors, or there was just antisocial behavior they were experiencing. So whether it be, sometimes kids would be playing football, but not that they're playing football, but it would be going on till late at night, or noisy parties, stuff like that. So they didn't want to make a formal complaint to the police, but they wanted us to be aware of what was going on in the community. So in terms of what police officers are doing in the community now, that changes from time, from area to area. So I couldn't say that if people have got issues that are not crimes, but they want to talk to the police about, then the best thing to do is to go online and send an email to whichever force they're in, West Midlands Police, Warwickshire Police, whatever it is, and send an email. And then if there's something that needs to be done, then they will come back to them. But it's very difficult for me to say what community initiatives and actions are being taken now, because they change over time.
Yeah, but at the same time you mentioned about community officers, which time to time we see on the street. What is their duties then?
Okay, so you've got more police community support officers. So
Yes.
police community support officers who are not police officers. So they are police staff. They're members of the public who are not sworn officers, but they have, their role is around community engagement. They're a visible presence for people to go to report things to. So, and that what they then do, they then report it back to into the police station. So yes, there are police community support officers around, and you can approach them. And I think when I think about it, they may well, again, depends on where you work and how many of them where you live and how many of them that there are, they may well still run like community surgeries where you can go along and have a chat with them. But again, you'd have to, whatever area you live in, go online you can usually type in your postcode, and it'll tell you which neighborhood you fall under, and then it gives you a list of your neighborhood officers, and you can contact them and find out more as to what they do, or if they've got any activities going on.
You all the time say go online, but where we need to go online are that it's Google or there it's specific website.
So you Google so you go onto Google, because I don't know where your community is. I can talk about West Midlands.
We have all around the UK. It's just that's the way I ask you how they will be the best.
So they need to go. They'll know what area they live in. I don't know what areas they live in, and they would go in and type in Google who are my local police officers or my local police force, and then go on. Every police force has its own website. There's no one police force.
Okay.
So they all have their own websites. You go online, go onto the police force. They usually have a menu where you can type in your postcode, and then you can find out who your local policing area is. But it's so different around the country. I can't just give one answer.
Yeah. I think this is one of the maybe a little bit issues because, everyone will live in different areas, particularly Latvian community. We are really spread around all the United Kingdom, and someone live in a really small villages where they know the police by the face, but there is bigger cities like Birmingham or West Midlands or Manchester or they are several different areas. So this is why
all the police forces do different things. So there's no one thing that I can't say, oh, they do this here and that's going to be the same everywhere else, because it's not. It's very different depending on the area they live in.
But general approach of the local police, it's actually for the local police officers, and that's what we need to look in it in a community if there are issues.
Yeah, you need to find out if you have any, because not all areas have them. So it's again, it's all down to funding. So it depends on where you live, what type of area you live in, as to whether you will have any local community support. But you can go online and you can Google it and find out.
Okay, that is great information, because time to time from community I have this question about where I can report it, how I can report it, and then I usually say it's Crime Watch website, which is actually all around the United Kingdom. As I see, it's only one and the same website. Then this website, Crime Watchers or Crime Watch?
So Crime Stoppers.
Oh yeah, sorry, Crime Stoppers. I'm really sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So Crime Stoppers is where you can report anything really that's police wise, and you can do it anonymously, so you don't have to leave your name. So say for instance, where you live, there's a lot of activity, people coming and going. You can you know that you've seen or you've heard that they've got like a cannabis factory there, but you don't want to report it to the police because you don't want to give them your name, you don't want to leave your phone number, you don't want to do any of that. You can go to Crime Stoppers and you can report it on that number, and they will then look at where what area, because you obviously have to give the address to where the offence is taking place, and then they will then send it to that local policing area. So your name will never be mentioned, no one will ever know who you are, and it just forms part of the intelligence picture, so that the local police might have heard that there is a house somewhere on their neighborhood where there is some kind of drug taking activity, but they haven't yet identified where the house is. You might have just reported the missing piece to that puzzle. So Crime Stoppers is great for that. And it's also great for like when they've got incidents that happen on, they've reported it in the local media and you might know who it is, but you don't want to get involved. You can call Crime Stoppers, give them the information, but they will never get your name and your address.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things which definitely will be great to know in community, particular because we do not want to. This is Latvian mentality. We don't want to be involved in my neighbors. It's not my business. Nevertheless, can you explain, and just you said that actually sometimes the small piece of the puzzle, it's actually what you report when you think, okay, it's nothing seriously, why I need to bother. So you as a police, working in a police, and as you mentioned last time, you working now in an investigation team. Now you can exactly say that how important can be small information which you report. For example, you see regularly came suspicious cars, and you see one of the neighbors just get there 1 second and get away, and you have a suspicion that they're maybe dealing with the drugs. What in this situation will be the best to do for anyone? This not only Latvian community, but general as a public. If you see this regularly, what will be the best actions to do for your point of view, and how important will be to do this report?
Okay, so I mean, don't get me wrong, it's always best if we know where the information has come from. But if you don't want to get involved, Crime Stoppers is the best number to call. So, because with Crime Stoppers, you just call the number, it's a free phone number. I think it's 0800 55 55 55. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a free phone number. You can, in fact, I'm going to get it because
they actually have a website, because I have to use several times, and in a website it's really easy. There it's choices where you want to take police come back to you with the questions, or you don't, or completely anonymous. Actually, it's really good way, and you don't need to call there. It's no charges. You go in a Google. So, I will put later on the link for everyone.
555 111. So it is a good number to keep. But yes, so you can call and you just leave the information, or you go online like Anastasia says, and you can just fill out the online report, and that's it. So, sometimes people think, oh, like you just said, it's none of my business, I don't want to get involved. It must be nothing, but it could just be that small piece that's missing from an investigation that the police need, that they can then look at. It can help them go down the right path and eventually create that further bit of information that they need. So it's and we've all got a civil duty to report stuff that we see.
And as we mentioned about the cars, what will be important as well, put in this report?
There's no point just saying you see a red car or a blue car or a black car or a black Mercedes or a white Ford Fiesta. None of that is of any use. What we need is a registration number of the vehicle.
So this is what I want you saying, because if I say that, they say, Anastasia, how you know that? They know everything.
Yeah, we need the registration number of the vehicle, and we also need descriptions of the people involved. And if you know their names, then great. If you don't, that's okay. But yeah, definitely registration numbers of vehicles, definitely descriptions of people, not just a white man in a black tracksuit top. That's no use to anybody. But if that's all you've got, then that's great. Don't get me wrong. Don't not report stuff because you don't have it. Because we might have the registration number of the white car, but we don't know what make it is, or we've got a bit of the registration number, but we don't have all of it. So, those little bits can all make up the bigger picture. But yeah, so just call or go online to Crime Stoppers and let us know.
Jenny, I just give you a question now. Jenny, for Russian have a saying, when you love, you love then hit. Did you remember we was have this exactly explanation last conversation? So yes, as Iger, thank you for that. We have this question with Jenny last time when we was talking about domestic abuse. It is, and this is the strongest and wildest feeling in a community that actually domestic abuse, it's only about the hit, but you was mentioned as well. Now there is many another was as well classification. Talking about reporting, so we was now went through in a really good Crime Stopper website, which I will put later on link underneath, where everyone can save for themselves and have a look. We as well a little bit now just went through about reporting. Now it's some kind of as well another questions that what community maybe be interesting. What to do when they see the not crime but suspicious something and they don't have any some kind of proof of that, but it's suspicious activities with the children. What to do? Are there need to be reports with the police, or there need to be report somewhere else? When we need to understand when this need to be reported to police and when to need to report somewhere else in a different organizations.
What do you mean by suspicious activity with children?
For example, you can see the adults really pulling, really aggressively on a street with the children. Or you hear next door neighbors really violently speak with the children, or even raise the hands, and children constantly crying. There are again, why I'm saying that, we have some kind of scared to report anything because we think straight away the kids will be taken away by the social services, and we some kind of keeping quiet, but actually that do not help that particular children. So what you can advise are that it's police matter, or that it's social services matter, or that should be both?
I mean, it depends what it is. Social services should definitely be involved. That family might need support rather than prosecution. We might have a stressed out mom who's suffering with postnatal depression. She might be a victim of domestic abuse herself. We don't know. So it's, I always find it very tricky because then somebody could just report people just because of the sake of it. And it gets, if you see somebody hitting their child, or you see, it's the same as if you see a man hitting a woman or a woman hitting a man, you would definitely report that to the police. That's definitely a police matter. If you are hearing your neighbors being over aggressive with their children, again, you don't know the set of circumstances. So do you report it? I probably say it's best to report it. And then let the authorities investigate it. But it's a tricky one. It's very tricky.
Yeah, and you really rightly said that sometimes the children, it's really scary themselves because they see domestic violence, and mother do not recognize that. So in these situations when it's hard to recognize, are you think it's great maybe to try to talk to neighbors, or better to stay away?
No, definitely do not. Unless they're your friends or family, then no. It's not your job to start interfering in other people's businesses. If you're concerned and you genuinely concerned about the children or the woman or the man, because it could be a man, you're best off to report it and let the authorities, social services, whatever involvement is needed in that family, because like I say, they might need some support as opposed to the family being pulled apart. So no, it doesn't necessarily mean the kids are going to be taken away, but every case is dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, interesting, because again, it's either white, either black, but it's hard to sometimes get the gray area, which just now you explain, where you you hear they screaming and shouting, but you don't know. You hear some kind of not pleasant wording and conversations, how they talk. Again, or that it's verbal abuse, or that it's threatening abuse, or that it's just how they talk. Nevertheless, the police, it's some kind of organization where our community start trying to be a little bit scary to contact. What will be the main things, as you as a police representation, I can say, because you're working in a police, what can be the main things which always person have to think to report it, or that it's just screaming, shouting? What you can say main concerns always need to be reported, if that makes sense?
Again, I mean, sometimes you probably hear screaming and shouting in my house, and that's just and if people report that, that would be outrageous, because it might be a verbal argument that's got a bit loud. But if it's a consistent pattern of behaviour, so I mean, as human beings, we have a gut instinct, and when something doesn't feel right, then report it. That's all I'm going to say. Is because I'm not going to say that every single time you hear someone raise a voice, you should report it to the police, because I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree that if you hear a child being shouted at, that warrants you calling the police. Because if the child, you don't know what that child's done. That child might have just set light to the got some matches. They've been told 10 times not to touch those things, and they've done it. And mom or dad has just lost their temper and shouted at the child. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not saying that, that's just life. Life is that. But sometimes and I think this is where common sense will come in. If you hear an ongoing it's been going on for a significant amount of time, you can hear furniture being thrown around, you can hear somebody screaming, leave me alone, you can hear someone screaming stop, or someone shouting help, then that is absolutely, you need to call the police for something like that. If you hear somebody screaming and then they stop screaming all of a sudden, you absolutely have to call the police for that, because something has caused that behavior to stop suddenly. So anything that just doesn't feel right, and it's not, it's unusual for them, it's unusual behavior, and it's just doesn't feel, you've heard the escalation, it's gone from shouting to you hearing furniture being moved or things being smashed, then you have to report that.
Yeah, and it's one thing what do not have happen often, but sometimes you see in a neighborhood house something happen which never happened before, and you think, oh, that is just something, but actually there was robbery, because nobody report that there's something happened suddenly, absolutely unexpected. What can be first recognition, maybe there robbery taking place, and maybe it will be great to call 999?
I think most people can recognize if someone's just committed a crime and run away from somebody. I mean, most robberies tend to be somebody taking something with force that's not theirs, and that person's either shouting or shouted help, or so, robberies don't tend to be quiet offences. People don't quietly rob somebody. There's usually, nowadays it tends to be phones that are taken, purses, bags, that kind of thing. So if you hear somebody shout, stop, police, or help me, then you need to call the police.
I more thought about some kind of neighbor went away in a holidays, and you see
burglary. Right, okay.
Burglary, yeah. Okay. Burglary as well. How recognize that kind of things as a burglary?
So if the neighbor, if you know your neighbor who's away on holiday and you see a broken, people can't just walk through into people's houses. They have to break glass or force doors or something like that, and you know your neighbor's not there, but you can hear people inside the house, then of course you're going to call the police.
Yeah, why I ask you, because I want to you particular say this, because when I'm as a Latvian community member said that there's all police never will come, they too busy to do things, they never will come anyway. Why I need this is why
Yeah,
I need to.
I'm not saying the police are going to come. I'm saying report it to the police,
So
because you know the police can't go to everything straight away. So at the end of the day, if something happens, they have to, like everything, they have to prioritize. They have to what is most important. So if somebody's being killed or there's a threat of violence and someone's house has been burgled, they're going to prioritize life over property. So yes, by all means report it, but I'm not saying the police are going to show up to everything.
So, and this is exactly what is great to talk about, because people say, oh yeah, I will call, and they came after 4 or 5 hours. Where was the point to do that? The point was that actually report was done and people know there's something happened, in my opinion. And another thing, that you do not know actually what's going on. Maybe that's its last piece of puzzle what needs to be reported to just catch the crime. Maybe not straight away, maybe on a way they catch them, and when they came in the burgle house they find some kind of instruments on someone which run away in a highway with a high speed now runaways, where police trafficker now run after them. So you see, what we can do together as a community to reassure community actually start work with police together, not against, because what you as a police officer think will be the best and how we can build this relationship between communities and police.
Oh gosh, that's a big question. I have no idea. The get involved. If there's any kind of community forums in your area, then be part of that. So again, you need to go online. You need to find out what's happening in your area. There will be some kind of community activity. It might be through the council. I mean, I don't know, because I don't have anything to do with that now. But if there's community projects, community engagement activities, just go grow and be part of that. And if you really want to set up your own, if you don't have one, set up your own. And
and I think this is most important to actually start engage with police, to have this conversation with police officers and see them when it's community events. Not because to be threatened that someone will be taking away, but actually to have a conversation on a street. How many times on a street I'm passing by police officer and I just say, hello, how you doing? Never was buying that someone was rude. And if I want to figure out local, some kind of areas points, they always, it's supportive. I think one of the strangest things in our community are based on a post-Soviet time where the policing was really poor and how can I say, for money you can get anything. So when
in the UK we don't police that way. It's never.
Can you a little bit explain that? Why that is completely different to UK police?
We don't we don't police that way in the UK. In the UK we police by consent. So we work with the people. So we don't carry guns. We do have firearms officers that carry guns, but police officers don't routinely carry guns in the UK. We don't work that way. The only people that need to be concerned about the police in the UK are people that are criminals. So if you are a criminal, then you should be scared of the police. You should be worried that we're going to come and knock on your door and that we are going to take you away and ensure that justice is served. But if you are a normal law-abiding citizen in the UK, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and I was want to ask your personal opinion, nothing to do with the personal opinion. Uh, Now you see the youngsters absolutely disrespectable to authorities.
Mhm.
What is your personal opinion about that and why?
Um, Gosh, I think it's not just young people; it's just people in general. People
Yeah, people in general. Sorry,
they,
you're right.
they don't respect themselves, so they've been as as a as a society, we have excused people's poor behavior and given them excuses not to behave well. And then when they have done something that's not good, we give them excuses to try and get out of it. I think at the end of the day, nobody likes anything that is going to take away their liberty. They don't like rules. They don't want to conform to anything. So, disrespecting police officers, they tend to disrespect themselves. They disrespect their own families. So, a police officer being disrespected by a member of the public is just standard now, I think. It's not. What do
Yeah.
I think about it? I think it's wrong. I think, I think as a society, we should, I was just having a discussion because I was talking on a podcast earlier, and I think what the public forget, whether it doesn't matter what culture, community you're from, what people forget is that police officers are people. So police officers are somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's husband, somebody's brother, sister, auntie, uncle, niece. They forget that. They seem to think that police officers must have come in a box from somewhere and they opened it up and they were police officers. And that's not the case. Police officers are human beings just like you. So I always say, treat people the way you'd want to be treated yourself. So if you're going to disrespect people, because that's what police officers are, they just happen to wear a uniform, that is their job. If you're going to disrespect people, then don't be surprised if people disrespect you. You get
Uh,
out, you get back.
you just said my rules of the life, because
Yeah.
I always said doesn't matter your skin color, doesn't matter your nation you come from, doesn't matter which language you talk to, doesn't matter anything. If you like someone treat you nice, you need to treat nice others. So
Yes,
never do for someone what you don't want someone do for you. And
absolutely.
this is that most important thing what I thinking, it's so important to actually understand that police officer, it's just their duty. They
Mhm.
are trained, they are know what they do. And sometimes I see on a social media these attacks on a police officers, where you do not even see whole story, they already accusing police, where if you keep little bit more widely common sense open, you understand no police without any information do not act in that way. It's just show one action and after that use this as excuse to show yourself. And this make me angry because these situations actually gave allowance to people who's maybe not so educated and so open-minded to actually take this as norm, without understanding what going on, make the judgments where who you are to judge anyone action which is professional. And this is authority job. It's not job like you sit down and writing the book as me. So I'm not authority. You being police officer or working in a police force, you are authority which needs to be taking with authority respect.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it doesn't work like that. Though. The thing is, the majority of people do still respect the police. The majority of people, when something goes wrong, will call the police. That's the person that when something goes wrong, the first people they're going to call are the police. So the majority of people respect the police, will call the police, think highly of the police. But there's always going to be a minority, and we tend to focus on the minority because they look like the majority, but the majority of people still,
but the minority do the biggest noise.
Yeah, they are the ones that make the most noise. But it always makes you smile because if something goes wrong, who are they going to call first? They're going to call.
Yeah. So, or they always need to run from because they always do the trouble themselves. Jenni, as always, our conversation fly by. It's nearly 45 minutes, and we just touched some kind of really simple steps. And you are tired, you after the broadcast. I'm as well today have a one of the main speaker in a Latvia Eurasia's Creative Guild Zoom conference. I'm as well shutting down. So I think for today we have quite a lot. Actually, we covered not quite a lot. Actually, like this from all that. What we will discuss in the next months and months after, because we agreed to do the every month one live. But I want to some kind of close this hour live with amazing information which you pass us, because sometimes it is even people in Latvian community understand me and know me. They say, "Oh, you just saying that. You are just making up." I think, okay, now will be person which working there. So listen what they said, because it's no point I'm saying. Yeah, this is you. But you know, Jenni, how it is in a family. You always never listen family members, but when this happens from outside, then you, oh yes, yeah, that's getting then.
Yeah.
So and one more time, I saying huge thank you for last month's advice, and I see so big influence on that, and we definitely will work in that. And time to time we need to again talk about domestic violence and the which kind of domestic violence they have. And I thank you for your time, and thank you for all viewers. There are Lauris up who's writing in Latvian. He's in Latvia, a severe disabled person, but he's always sent the love out of us to you, to me. And he say, "I'm sorry, I cannot speak English, but it's so privilege you helping the children, and I wish you everything the best to all." He's amazing guy, completely paralyzed. But he mind it sometimes mind blowing. So yes, Jenni, thank you for your time, and we will see again next month.
Can I suggest that the different topics within domestic abuse, perhaps we can pick one each month and we break it down and explain exactly what it is. So like financial abuse, what is it? What does it look like? Coercive controlling behavior, what does that look like? That type of stuff.
I think financial abuse can be one of the really interesting topics, because I know a lot of families, they do that, and they think that it's norm. So where actually they do not recognize as abuse. And I think one of the next after we definitely need to look in that way.
And the coercive controlling behavior as well. I think we need to.
Yeah, and because I do not sometimes understand all this fancy English words.
No, we can pick it apart and go right.
Yeah. All right, Jenni. Thank you so much. And can you stay a little bit after our live? But now I say everyone goodbye. And thank you so much, Jenni, one more time today for your time. Bye.